We're moving forward to the fact that schools are now opening up in the COVID-19 situation. The president said on the 15th of October, schools are going to open up, and government schools and KCCA related schools are saying we are going to put money in our schools to make sure that they're able to follow the SOPs. Now, one of the SOPs that the Ministry of Health has put up is the fact that students have to have at least 3 masks when they're going back to school. Students have to have the negative results of COVID-19 before they go back to school, and that is one of the things they have to represent to their head teachers when they're going back to school. And if they don't, that means they have to pay the 240,000 Ugandan shillings when they're going back to school. And unfortunately, we have the point that parents have to pay full school fees. Some schools have said their requirements are that parents pay full school fees. Now, before we jump to KCCA aiding their schools in dealing with the COVID-19 situation and following the SOPs, we have a problem, Tariq and Simon Chris Makanga. Abazadde babadde ku lockdown for how long? 6 months.
7
we are
now.
at a situation
Now coming to 7.
whereby schools are making rules that are so hard for these parents to follow. Tosobola gambo muzadde, you have to pay
is it schools
full
or Ministry
school
of Education?
Schools, not Ministry of Education. That is what I said, and I'm making it clear, schools. Because last week, when schools were saying people have to pay 240,000 Ugandan shillings as testing money to schools, Ministry of Education came up and said, we are not part of this project and we don't know about it. However, they have said parents need to go themselves to these centers and pay that money and make sure that when their students are going back to school, they have the negative test results. But what does this mean for a parent? Abadde takola mu COVID-19 situation, talina sente, he's struggling, and now alina okutwala the kid back to school, starting with 250, starting with a sanitizer in the student's bag, starting with the soap, going back to masks, going
the
back.
more you say that, the more you're piercing.
Too many things that they are putting up.
To be honest,
of
course,
it hurts.
Of course. Listening to all those things, I read about them. But chinakuwaza, chimalamu amaanyi,
yes,
chirwaza. Obadde waka, omwana omuspendingirako sente. Abaana by the no bageze. Nyo. Omwana omuliisa ekyencha, omuliisa ekyemisana, omuliisa ekyeggulo. You don't have only 2 or 3, you have 4. Lulibadde ku masomero nga at least omanya oteekayo ka school fees, nomanya feeding ejagenda eyo. Ne kati obadde waka, gy'okolera rent bakubanja, ewaka rent bakubanja, you need to look for money to feed these 4 kids you have at home. And then ka school fees zayo zeetaaga oyina babiri baddayo ku ssomero, weetaaga 245, 240 gye emitwalo ng'emeka egyo times 2. Anamuna roughly anamwenda bw'okola 245 anamwenda. Kati olina aba candidates babiri egyo anamwenda gya testing COVID-19, weetaaga sanitizer, weetaaga simanyi ogambye ki
masks, yes.
Oh my God. Ate si ekyo kyokka olina okugattako school fees, olina okugattako other requirements. So where are we heading?
Kati kwezo school fees bagambye you have to pay full. Like there are schools that said unless you pay full school fees omwana wo tetugenda musomesa.
Where are we heading?
There's a lot happening with the school reopening.
Kibadde kwada wali eri nti okuyiga okusaasirigana n'okwerekereza. Tosobola kugamba muzadde abadde mu lockdown nti asasule sente ez'okuba nti testing ate nga tekisoboka. Era wano wenkubiza gavumenti eveeyo erambike bulungi. Kubanga ne gavumenti nayo esirise. Nga wogambye nti Minister of Education yagambye teri part of that. Amasomero gayinza okuba gataddewo embeera eno nga ganyunyuta abazadde. Kubanga nze sinalaba wawe kiri, I'm a parent, naye sinalaba wawe kiri nga gavumenti ekyenforcinga nti mulina okuba nti mukebera abaana abo baliko okudda ku ssomero. So gavumenti yandibire netulambika bulungi.
Gavumenti kankweka information. Initially, Ministry y'ebyobulamu yavaayo negamba nti there is going to be mandatory testing of all students going back to school. Naye nemala nekola ki? Nekivaamu. Kati amasomero gabanga ge gakireese nayo avenue yakwagala kuliira mu ssente.
Anti nkugambye nti gavumenti eveeyo erambike bulungi ddala ensi kuba tegenda kugiza bannansi kuba tibabbibwa. Tetugenda kubbibwa nga amasomero gatukiitinga. Gwe labayo omwana alina okumasasula ssente ez'okwekebeza, what registration fees eza UNEB nayo ziteekeko, nagala full payment of school fees nayo ziteekeko. Olina okugula sanitizer, olina okugula biki byonna, masks byonna baba byetaaga. So ssente zigenda kuvaawa.
Olaba Latifa, I still stand with my advice or my opinion. why don't we call it a dead year? Netufuna fresh planning. Come
But
2021.
see, here's the problem. That makes a lot of sense. Now we are at a situation whereby we're full a dead year. We're going to have 2 same classes come next year. And the question is, do we have the capability to deal with that huge number of 1 class per, per academic year, which is not going to help. Kubangolaba, the teaching capacity that we have in the country is already being strained. Katiteka the whole huge number going back to school at once. This is a very welcomed strategy to kendezeko ku the number of kids abagenda okusoma next year. But here's the thing, implementation has become a problem. It has become expensive for private schools or take out the SOPs, and now the government schools bagenda kuyambirwa with the government because they're coming up to say, Olava KCCA is saying they're going to give their schools 1.5 million. That means 118 million per school to enforce the SOPs. Now hizo centers zigenda kuvawa for starters. KCCA has 79 schools, and that means bagenda ziwa sente to make sure that they're put in place. Now, Tariq, were discussing earlier in the day, and you said that the temperature guns are costing 300,000 Ugandan shillings. Thank you. Now, how are these private schools, which have been struggling? We've seen that Wetuli, people have turned their schools into chicken farms. People have turned their schools into goat farms because now they're unable to handle what is going on. There you go. So how is my kid supposed to go back to school? Katiao, tetulabia the issue of they're saying somere mutasobola kubera boarding ne day at the same time. They have to choose one. You're either boarding or day. So that means I have to change the school that my kid is in because Wasula is too far proximity-wise from my school. That is what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. What were they thinking when they're putting these SOPs in place?
Let me ask you something.
Did they see the practicability of it?
Are they panicking? Do you get that feeling to their panicking?
They're not panicking.
No,
that is the problem.
Yeah. Tetweteekateeka bulungi sessa nga twagala buli kintu kikole okusanyusa oba bannansi kyesitategeera kubanga singa waliwo enteekateeka eyali ennambulukufu nga buli kimu kigoberera amateeka ddaba Ministry of Education yavaayo kimegenda tusuubiza nti abaana bagenda kudda ku masomero n'emate n'ebikola ki n'ebijjawo minisita yajja n'ayogera kino nti abaana baddeyo ate pulezidenti ajja n'agamba no tebikola ki so tewali nteekateeka nnambulukufu egobererwa kuba nti nno kuba naffe tuwadde budde kwenza kuvayo n'ongamba nti olangidde ate ng'opadde omwezi gumu kuba nti neeteekateeka okufuna ebintu ebyonna byagala mbikola so tewali nteekateeka nnambulukufu. Secondly, buluga nti tuddeyo tugambe nti saazo tulangire dedia nze ng'omuzadde sandi kiwagidde kubanga buli omwana wakiwulira n'essuubi kuba kati abaana badde balimu essuubi nga babeera ku TV ne basoma kuba bamanyi nti anytime bakola ki badda ku ssomero kiba keepinza at least busy n'okuba nti bakozesa obwongo bwabwe naye buluga nti tulangire dedia n'omwana agenda ku relaxinga juzi nabadde nga ndaba
but they've already relaxed.
So, okay, most of them
they actually not only sinabana boka n'abazadde but relaxing
kubanga nange naina ka pressure nga bakayingira awo nga kaselangula kabukedde nsema mulimu ebiki
no man of
to be sincere nange natuge senda bangati
but here's the thing but that's the way it's supposed to be. But here's the thing, it's not panic, and sometimes it's not being prepared. I hear it's not about them not being prepared. I think it's about the budget that comes with it. We've always seen the things that happen to Uganda and with Uganda are the things that are planned come with the budget under it. We've seen that they say they want to provide 2 masks per student, and you saw the budget that came with it.
5.7 billion.
That's a lot of money. So it's the budget that comes with every program that they bring forward. At all, when this money comes out, they don't use it fully to what it's supposed to be. We have corruption and the money is embezzled. So we are at a situation where the parents are going to carry the heavy burden of taking their kids back to school. Katinze omuzadde, who is used to homeschooling my kid, rachisimu homeschooling. And I wait for you, Neb, because I know I've prepared them enough, Nemutwala, because now teachers are also going to take this homeschooling money. They won't be interested in going to class and teaching for how many hours a day? Kubanga kati, remember, one class again at Twala Bameka, 10 kids. That means they're going to have 5 P7 classes that they have to teach in a day, morning session and evening session. Bagenda kowa. We're going to see a situation in the country where teachers are going to opt to go for farming and private teaching other than going to classes.
That is already a challenge that is existing. Abasomesa bagenda mu lockdown. Actually, education yasooka ddala ogenda ku lockdown. Abagezigezi ne batandika okuyiiya because as a parent ng'watoli musomesa olina okulowooza beyond and so you're going to sustain your family. So abamu bagetinga bali bamanyidde zino sente eza mathd kati ze batandika okuyiiya nga bafuna daily income ne weesanga ng'omusomesa asobola okuyingiza emitwalo 2 okay ne weesanga ng'oli asobola oyingiza 3 kati kigenda kubeera kizibu nnyo okumujja ku zino daily income omuzze ku gino emitwalo 3 egy'omwezi ng'oluusi zimala n'emyezi 2-3 tezirabise. It is going to be very hard. That is also a challenge I see coming. So anyways, I think we need proper planning for our students.
Just to be fair, we've been on the side of parents a lot kubanga naffe tuli bazadde, but have we looked at these private schools who have not made money for that long, and the SOPs that are coming, that means balina okuspendiga sente nyingi nnyo. So they're also looking at tufunira muwa. We want to educate people. We want to bring education to that. Where is our solution? So it's hard for them, and government has told them, if you guys have failed to open schools, Kubanga, you can't afford to. Abana mubalete to government schools. Kubanga, we have the SOPs. What does this mean for a person who invested in schools? So it's a hard situation for everybody.
Government is proposing okuba nti yasetiza aside 500 and something billions zagula radios abana basome kati sente okusomera kw'eddiko kuli kutya era kutuyamba ki wera abana badde kubasomera ku ma TV naye boddayo n'obabuuza nti mwasomye tirasobola kugamba nti nayize kino
thank you
kyekimu kati sente zibagenda okuba nti bateeka mu venture ng'eyo ey'okugula radios obwiki nga waliwo n'abaziswamira bazitunuulidde bayogera okuziyoola lwaki gavumenti ekwata ssente neyamba ku private schools neziyamba ku SOPs ziboogerako nga KCCA wegamba nti yegenda kuvayo we agaayo ssente gavumenti mfo gy'okugula radiyo ezo ebiveeko eyamba amasomero kubanga kyekituufu kye balina okukola n'ebyokugula radiyo kati zigenda kuyamba era zikyusa ki
bw'oba ogoberera as we exit from this topic bw'oba ogobera ebigenda maaso mu ggwanga mu mazima ekituufu kiri nti I don't want to be subject to judgment, but this is a reality. Nti bw'otunulira abantu abatutwala mu maaso abali in the governance of this country, I'm not talking about the top, but these ministries, buli omu ateekawo avenue okulaba nti ayisizaabo budget abeeku kakati kakola ki kafuna. So bwe tunaba nga tutambuza ensi ku nkola ng'eyo, I don't know, twolekedde akaseera akazibu.
Muganda enkuisho yennyini twali tubadde mu lockdown tubadde mu nebagamba nti bagenda kutuwa masks wafuna.
I didn't get the mask.
I
didn't get the mask.
ate buli omu yayina 2
and that's the problem. That's the problem. Naye kati ogamba otya mugenda kuwa abaana masks nga mugambye abazadde balete masks 3 buli muzadde alete masks 3 omwana what does it mean? What are we going to do with the money that you've allocated for buying the masks? I mean, it's a tricky situation how we deal with issues when we are bringing them up. We've opened airports, but now the SOPs that have been put in place were so tight that omuntu ogamba you can't bring a test result that is more than 72 hours. That means line jogenda okusimba is very long. I mean, when we are planning, what are we thinking most of the time? Are we thinking of the challenges that come with the decisions we make? Are the questions that we're supposed to ask as we make these decisions?
Ebibuuzo bingi, answers ntono. The discussion continues on our social media platforms. Gwe atulaba buterevu ku Facebook, YouTube, wamune Twitter. Let your comments come through on whatever topic that we are trying to share with you. Naddala ku nsonga y'ebyokusoma. Bw'obanga oli muzadde oyinza okutegeera ddala kye twogerako. Bw'obanga oli musomesa naawe oyina ebikunyiga so otegeera kye twogerako. Your comments will be read later on nga tugenda maaso ne Latifa. Twongereyo.
Well, as we're moving forward,